All right, so if you did your retopology in Maya, if you exported your model from ZBrush to do your retopology in Maya using QuadDraw, your scene file would probably look like this. You've got your high-res model here, so we'll turn our polyframe on. Again, you can see this is the 1.7 million polygons. It was a Dynamesh model. And we've got our other geometry in here, but we're only going to worry about the single piece right now. So we've got our model here. You would have exported that model over to Maya, and this is what we have right here. All right, there's the high-res model. I didn't decimate it. I just exported it out of ZBrush. Now this model right here is the 1.7 million polygon model, and I brought that over to Maya. It does, it is a little bit sluggish. It's not, very entirely responsive. So, you would or you could certainly decimate this model in ZBrush before you brought it over here to properly retopologize it. Now, I'm not going to go through the retopology process in here using QuadDraw. You should be familiar with that. And if you used QuadDraw to retopologize this, this is what you would end up with. Okay, so this is a retopologized model done with QuadDraw here inside of Maya. Now I need to get this model back over to ZBrush so that I can project it. And the process for doing that, it's not complicated, but there certainly is a process. So, with my, let's go into Maya right here, and what we need to do is export this guy out as an OBJ so that we can bring him into ZBrush. So let's go up to File, Export Selection Option Box. Make sure we choose OBJ as our file type that we're going to export. And you can turn all of this off or leave it on. It really doesn't matter for this, what we're doing here, but I've got all of it turned off. I'm going to export this selection, and I'm going to go ahead and put it into my data folder. So I've created a project directory folder right here, and in the data folder I'm going to go ahead and put that low res skull, so skull underscore low res. Oops, low res. There we go. And we'll put that in here, and you can see I've already got some OBJs in my data folder. All right. So I'll go ahead and export this selection, and there we go. So we've exported our low-res retopologized skull out of Maya. Now let's go into ZBrush, and we'll show you how to bring it in here. Okay. Now with the scene loaded up right here, if I want to import an OBJ from outside of this scene right here, this is how I would do it. From my tool palette, I want to sort of replace this scene with something else. So all I do is either click on the star right here. You can click on the big swatch and find the star, whatever. You just want to have something in here so that when we bring in our skull OBJ, it will replace this geometry. Okay. So now with that in here, I'm going to go ahead and hit import. I am going to go to my data folder and bring in my low-res OBJ right here. Let's open it up. There we go. So there's my low-res model, all right, that we brought over from Maya. And let me open up my scene file now by just clicking on it. And here's the scene file with the high-res skull and the hat in here. And now for me to get this low-res skull in here, I need to append it or insert it. So I want to make sure that this low-res skull comes in right underneath this skull right here. So I'm going to come down into my subtool palette to insert, all right? Just so you understand, if you insert something, it's going to come in directly under what is selected. And if you append something, it's going to come in underneath everything else. It'll be the last thing in the subtool palette. Either one will work because we can manipulate it later and move it around. But if I want it to come in right underneath this skull here, I'm going to go ahead and insert it. So when I click on insert, I can find that low-res skull right here. It'll be in the top, all right? And there it is right there, that low-res skull. So I'm going to click on that. And there we go. So it came in, and it's sitting right underneath the high-res skull. So if I turn the visibility on that guy right there, okay, you can see now that the skull is sitting right on top of each other. Now, it's really important that when you export your high-res skull over to Maya, that you don't move it or scale it or do anything to it. All right, you want it to be, you want to export it out of ZBrush and then bring it right back so it comes in the exact same place in world space. All right, so when you bring your model over from ZBrush into Maya to retopologize, do not scale it, do not freeze transforms, don't do anything to it, don't move it, nothing. Okay, so that way when we bring it back, it's going to sit right on top of the original model. Now, once that's done, we're ready to go ahead and project. So I'm going to go ahead and select that low-res skull right there. Let me turn the polyframe on so you can see it a little bit better. All right. Again, the high-res skull visibility is turned on. And let me turn that off right there. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, we'll leave that on. And this, any other geometry, like say the hat or anything else I might have in here, the visibility is turned off right here with this eyeball. All right, so we turn that off. So the only two items we're dealing with are these two here that we're going to project against each other. All right, so just like last time, let's scroll down. Make sure that our projection is open and that we can get to the divide button here. You'll notice that the distance slider by default is set to 0.02. So we're going to move this up to about 0.5 and somewhere in that neighborhood like that. First thing I'm going to do is hit the project all button and give that a second. Not much is going to happen the first time you run it because there's not a lot of polygons on this low-res model. So now we go ahead and divide it and project it. And we continue to do this until we have enough polygons and enough detail in our low-res model where we're not getting any faceting. We know from the previous video that it took us, I believe it was 7, was it? 7 divisions to get there. So right now we're at 78,000 polygons. So I'm just continuing to hit divide and project all, watching the progress bar and letting ZBrush do its thing. All right, don't be too quick with these clicking on these buttons here. Allow ZBrush to do its to resolve its projection. All right, and I think one more division, which gives us 7 subdivisions, 1.249 million, and then one more project all, and that should do it. So let's let this resolve. In the next video, I'll show you how you can UV your model inside of ZBrush. Now, a lot of times the UVs we get, or most of the times the UVs that we get inside of ZBrush are not always production quality. They do, the UVs that we get out of ZBrush are fine if we're doing concept art and we need to just have quick UVs so we can apply a map to it. But in a production sense, you'd want to do your UVs by hand inside of Maya, where you have more control, over where you put your seams and that sort of thing. But I'm going to show you how we can do quick UVs inside of ZBrush here on this piece of geometry. And you can see that this projection right here is taking some time. So hopefully ZBrush isn't going to crash on me. Let's just give it a second. It's still thinking. And I'm keeping an eye on my progress bar up here. And there we go. All right. So there we go. So let me solo this out and we can take a look at it. I'll turn the polyframe off. And again, you can see that that projection looks really good. I've got all the detail from that high-res model. And that's it. I'm good to go on this. Now I would come up here and save this to make sure I don't lose those projections. Okay. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and UV this and create our displacement map.